This call is now being recorded.
Um, so, Gamma, to start this interview, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, fine. I'm Judy Trachtenberg. I am Zander Patton's grandmother. I'm 83 years old, and I am not senile. Okay?
All right. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about 9/11. My first question I want to ask is, where were you when the planes first hit?
When the planes first hit, I was actually in my office at the Jewish Family and Children's Services in New Jersey. I'd gotten in a little early that day because I had just started this job the week before. And it was about 9:15, and I was at my desk, and I punched NPR on the radio because nobody else was in the office, and I heard something about an airplane. And I thought, well, what about the airplane? But they didn't bother going back to it because nobody thought it was a thing, okay? So I'm busy doing my work, and I'm listening to the radio, and then there's an announcement that they think this is a large plane. And at the time that happened, in the building next to ours was the New Jersey Red Cross, the center, main one in New Jersey. And somebody came into the building, and they said, how many psychologists are there here? And I said, right now, just me. I said, but in a few minutes, there'll be several. So the guy came back over, and he said, we need 4 or 5 to go up to New York. By this time, another plane had crashed into the building. So they knew there was a big issue, and they had to get first responders up to Liberty Island in New Jersey, because that's directly across from the World Trade Center. And people coming out of the World Trade Center could be evacuated via ferry right onto Liberty Island. The other issue at that time was there was a huge medical conference at the Meadowlands in New Jersey, which isn't far from Liberty Island. So they evacuated all the physicians that were at the medical conference, and they brought them over to Liberty Island. So I was in my office, found out about the plane, and then I was whisked up to Liberty Island. I was there by 10:30.
Okay. What did you do at Liberty Island?
Actually, we were preparing for the walking wounded to be coming over. And one of the criteria was, yes, you're a psychologist, but do you mind what would you do if you saw somebody being evacuated and they were, bleeding profusely, or they were, missing a limb or anything like that? Did anybody have a problem with that? And I said, no, I don't have a problem with that. I can handle that. So you had to be first able to tolerate the scene that was unfolding in front of you. And then you had to be prepared for what kind of psychological trauma would the people that are coming off that boat, would they be experiencing at the time because of what they have seen. So we sort of had to try to put ourselves in a situation that none of us had ever been in before, and try to figure a way out of it with the people that were coming. And that's what we had to do.
Okay. How many did anybody show up to Liberty Island?
I can't hear you, Zander.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did anybody show up to Liberty Island?
Yes. I think perhaps 100. It was really upsetting because by the time the people started coming over, we were totally set up as a first responder. We had literally hundreds of beds set up on the outside by the museum and things. They were all set up. There were IV bags attached. There were several hundred doctors there. There were all kinds of people coming in with blood donations and things like that. So the first boat that came over only had about 15 people on it. And they were fairly cogent. They hadn't seen anything too stressful. They were mostly concerned about the fact that they were not going to be able to get back home again because they actually lived in that area of Wall Street, and around the NYU area where the bomb went off. So by the World Trade Center. So they were concerned about not being able to get home and how long would it take to get home. They were worried about, do I have my medications, blah, blah, blah. And we settled those rather easily. Then as the next boat started to come, there were actually people there who had experienced some significant visual trauma. Namely, they had actually seen bodies fall next to them from the building. And it's very hard. People have to deal with trauma, and they usually deal with it by reaching back in their life and trying to find a situation that is similar to that and figure out how I deal with that. What can I build on that to let me deal with this? None of us can call back in our lives an experience that in any way comes close to a body falling next to you. And so these people really, it was just a matter of trying to get them to focus on the fact that they were all right, they were going to get through this, and to do as much as you could with that person to keep them in touch with the fact that this will pass. It's a horrible event. You're going to take a long time processing it. But today is the first day of it, and that's all we could do.
Okay.
I can't hear you again.
Were there any actual walking wounded people who
very
suffered
few.
injuries?
Most of the ones that were severely wounded were taken to the hospitals in directly by the World Trade Center. There are several major hospitals down in that area. Those that had minor wounds were put on the ferries, and they were to by the more than sufficient medical staff that was there. One of the bizarre things was that everybody everywhere wanted to help the people of New York. And they knew that Liberty Island was a first responder place. And I cannot tell you how many hundreds of pizzas were delivered to our little area. Just boxes and boxes of pizzas from pizza places, because they all wanted to help the people out. And then they had pizza donators, or you had blood donators, either one. But they were coming in heavy.
Wow. All right.
And
yeah, so in the aftermath of 9/11, did you agree with the U.S.'s decision to invade Afghanistan?
No, I didn't think we should have been in Afghanistan, and I don't know. Most of the people that I, worked with and associated with were very much against that invasion. I don't know how you can predict what will happen from any kind of invasion, but I don't think any of us predicted this. This was something that was just totally out of our realm of experiences. The United States had never been invaded by anything. Are you serious? Someone's going to take down our World Trade Centers? Couldn't happen. Even though it had been attacked earlier. No, they couldn't take down the buildings. And frankly, hold on. Anyway, I think also there were so many things for the people in the aftermath of 9/11 that the population at large didn't understand, namely the survivor's guilt of those people who were supposed to have gone to work that day and didn't. And that was so tragic for them, truly tragic, because not only did they, in some cases, lose friends and everything in the building, but they were no longer a part of the team in the building because they had not shown up for work. They had not had the experience. And so, though they didn't die in the incident, they were no longer blended in with their group. They were now an outsider. And that
I
was
see.
a really difficult thing for them to process with the people in their office. Afterwards, I spent quite a bit of time going up to New York and processing different corporations in how to deal with 9/11 because it was mandated by the United States government that absolutely everybody in New York had basically crisis counseling. So up we went every single day on the train from Princeton, and we, sat down with people in groups and went through what we had to go through and how to help them process the entire event. And they had, everybody had a story, and every story needed to be told and needed to have validation. And nothing was too small because some of the little things really turned out to be the things that other people could relate to. And as a group of people, we were able to discuss it and certainly not solve problems, but we were able to make some inroads as to how you could progress towards the future.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm running out of time here, so I'll ask you one last question. So it's about the aftermath of 9/11. How did 9/11 affect your life? After it happened, how did your life change after 9/11?
I think I reached out even more to people. As a psychologist, I was always working with people, but I saw them in it differently. And I certainly didn't see them as a person who had all the answers, which sometimes you feel that you do, but you don't. And I just learned to be far less judgmental and much more accepting of people's opinions and feelings that were different from mine and value them.
That's a great lesson to take away.
It is a very important lesson.
Yeah. All right. This interview's been great. Thank you for calling me and talking about your experience.
Okay. When can you talk to me like my grandson?
After I hang up.
Okay. Very good.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.